Hey guys, this is Nicole Van Tassel with I Explore Science, and today we are talking about building a perfect phenomenon parfait. So we're going to keep this pretty quick because we had a change this week. The babysitting schedule is just nuts. So my kids are upstairs and my husband is with them. He's working. So we're going to kind of breeze through this, and it'll be fine. But I definitely can come back and answer your questions later. So feel free to ask questions for sure. So this is something that's related to storylines. So if you're doing our NGSS Storylines Bootcamp, you're going to definitely see this as you develop your storylines. But when you're using phenomena, and it took me so long to figure this out, you're really developing like a parfait. And I love sweets, so I decided I was going to use parfait as an example for this. But you're not just, and this is one of the mistakes I made, I would just choose one phenomenon at the beginning, my anchor, because everybody talked about anchors, right? You choose an anchor, you choose your anchor, this is a good anchor, this is a bad anchor, it's all about the anchor. But the reality is it's NGSS storylines, NGSS units are about more than just your anchors. They're actually, it's literally a parfait, layer after layer of phenomenon. And it took me a really long time to figure that out. And I actually had to go back into a lot of my, to my units and add phenomenon back in because I wasn't building that parfait. I had my anchor, but I wasn't building the parfait. So we're going to be chatting about why storylines integrate phenomena like a parfait, 3 functions of phenomena in your science class so you can see how you're going to use them in different ways, and then understanding how you use them, that's going to help you decide which phenomenon is the right one for the job at hand. Because you might have a great phenomenon, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the one that's right for that moment, for that task, for that activity. It might fit the content, but it might not be the right one for you right then. So today in the boot camp is all about phenomenon 2, and all of our boot campers are actually working through choosing their phenomenon today. Okay, so why storylines integrate phenomena like a parfait? Basically, in a storyline, students are digging deeper into the content question by question. And it is the phenomena that help drive students forward. So when you start with your big anchor, that generates a bunch of questions. And those questions get you started in the unit, and they help students discover a lot of your content. But you've probably run into where you're like, okay, but I have all of these other standards and all of this other content, and it doesn't really fit back to my anchor. A big problem I see, teachers having is they're like, I can't find an anchor that covers all of my content. That's another issue. The reality is you don't have to find an anchor that covers every single piece of content. You want an anchor that generates a lot of the questions that you're going to be answering because you need to get the ball rolling, right? But you don't have to, it doesn't have to cover every single piece of content because you can layer phenomena to address the other stuff. So you have your anchor, you generate some questions, you do some digging and investigating, students discover stuff, they ask some more questions, and then you can introduce new phenomena. Sometimes it's directly related to your anchor, sometimes it's like a tangent of your anchor. In one of my storylines, we do, it's like the water cycle, climate, weather, and all of that. And kind of a theme that runs through the whole storyline is our deserts. So it's not necessarily like one specific desert for every single example of the phenomena, but that's kind of like a tie that keeps us connected as we are digging into other content, like other climate issues and factors and other water cycle or weather or whatever. And it doesn't mean that we don't ever tie in like environments or phenomena not related to deserts, but that's a way that I can keep some cohesion. So it doesn't directly tie to my initial anchor, but it is like a little kind of tangent of it or a piece of it that kind of keeps it flowing and just feeling cohesive. And sometimes it's like a more direct connection, like maybe you're doing something with climate change and this is one aspect of climate change. Climate change is such a big phenomenon that you can tie everything to it. But either way, your phenomena is really, it's driving question by question, and it's what is allowing your students to dig deeper into your content and into whatever standards you wanted to include in your unit, and just like egging them on forward to discovery after discovery. It's like layer upon layer. Now, there's three functions, I mean, there might be more, three that I have identified and that help me make sense of things. Like, obviously, when we put things into categories are man-made. There's always fuzzy lines. There's always things that overlap. But categories can also help us understand things and just simplify things. So what I've noticed is I can use phenomena in, like, primarily three ways. Again, not limiting you to just three ways, but three ways. So the first one is to basically spark curiosity, spark engagement, generate questions. That is one way that I use phenomena. Another way that I use phenomena is to actually provide exploration experiences for students. And then the last way is giving students an opportunity to practice or to transfer their knowledge, and this can often be a form of assessment. So when I'm thinking about my first function, questioning, driving curiosity, generating questions, all of that, a lot of times that comes at the beginning of a sequence because that's what's launching those questions. And that kind of phenomena are, I mean, they're really intriguing. They are sometimes presented as like pictures or videos. Sometimes they can just be discussions even. They don't necessarily have to be as tangible or hands-on because it's just like making us think and talk and wonder. So that's one type of phenomena. And that is going to be, that's often what's like driving your students to the next layer of your parfait. Now the exploration, now this type of phenomena is what your students are really digging into. So this should be like a hands-on thing. The engagement phenomena really should be tied to a real world. Like that should be something outside your classroom door. That's what's adding authenticity. It's adding the like, what's the point of this? Sometimes your exploration level phenomena is a contrived kind of setup in your classroom. Like we saw something cool in this video, but now we can't really go, 300 miles, I don't know, across the country to test this out there. So we need to replicate that in the classroom in some way. And that's a phenomenon that you would use for like exploration. An example I use in the academy all the time is when you're looking at condensation, something simple like bringing a cold Coke can and watching what happens, in your warm classroom, just environment, whatever, on the desk. That's something, it's not really as like, ooh, I really want to figure this out as, maybe seeing fog rolling in off the ocean or something. But it is something that students can actually like observe with their senses and experience. They can feel the cold. They can, I guess they could taste it. I wouldn't recommend that. But they can really just get their hands on that kind of exploration. So with that kind of phenomena, you're really looking for that tangible aspect. And finally, your practice and assessment. And this is the final function that we're going to be talking about. And this type of phenomena can be, really it could be either of those, but the point is that you're choosing something that is similar but different. And the purpose here is that your students are taking what they learned through the exploration, through the meaning making and the sense making that you guided them through, and now they're applying it to a new situation. We do this in like class all the time. It's expected. This is one thing I for sure learned in grad school. You have students transfer. You have students apply to new situations. But a lot of times we didn't, in the past, we had them apply it, but we didn't have them apply it to actually a phenomenon. We just had them look at like a different question or something like that. With this one, we're actually giving them a totally new phenomenon, just like we gave them a phenomenon in the engage, sparking curiosity. Now we're giving that same type of phenomenon, but now they've learned so much, and now they know so much more. We want them to actually explain it. And this is a really good formative assessment. And really, this is what your summative assessments should look like. With NGSS assessments, they're not multiple choice. They're not true or false. They're not fill in the blanks. They are, here's a new phenomena. Use your science and engineering practices and tell me what happened. Draw me a model and explain what's happening. Show me what you're not seeing that's happening, like what's unseen, and show me what's seeing. Show me how energy and matter are moving through this system. Anna, here's some data. Explain this phenomenon using this data. Here is an argument. Use the evidence that you've collected throughout this this unit to argue from evidence in support of this claim or against this claim. Your 3D assessments are really, here's a new phenomenon or a situation or scenario, a phenomenon, and do something with it, like explain it to me. So that is where that third purpose of phenomena comes into work in your classroom. And basically that's kind of what I already just told you. Well, this slide I was supposed to wait, but the first one, a couple other things to look for. So good phenomena, it doesn't mean it's necessarily the right phenomena. For questioning and curiosity, so you want to look for, like I said, it's that real world connection. It's something that is happening outside the classroom, real world. That said, it should connect to your students. We always want to be thinking of what's going to connect to our students' interests, what's going to connect to their experiences, what is going to like tug at their heartstrings and get them buy-in. One of the points that I brought up in the How to Anchor training that we did last month was that novelty wears off so quickly. If you have like children, you've seen this. If you have a dog, you have seen this. How many times have you bought your dog a new toy and like they're super excited about it for a week and then they just forget about it and don't play with it ever again? We are like whatever biologically wired to love novelty, but it wears off really fast. Phenomena can be that way too. However, emotion and relevance last so much longer. So if you can choose phenomena that connect, that are relevant, so connect to students in some way, or literally tie into those emotions, tug at the heartstrings in some way. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, this makes me sob, but just I can emotionally identify with that, or I can connect to that. I can understand that experience. I can get angry about that, or I can get like, not like in a angry way, but in a like, that's really unfair and that makes me angry and I want to do something about it way. Adolescents love to do things that matter. We can get our students we can get that buy-in and that engagement to last so much longer than just like ooh, look at that explosion, it's cool, but now I've forgotten about it 30 minutes later. So anyway, that's your first type of phenomenon. Now for the exploration, again, you are always want to look for that tangible phenomena that's going to yield discoveries. So this is, I can actually manipulate this with my hands. I can manipulate it with my mind. So not just hands-on, but minds-on. I can manipulate this data. I can examine it. I can figure out whatever my objective is. That's what you want to look for exploration. And then finally, for that assessment, you want to look for something that is similar, but also different. So it's not the exact same example that you've presented, but it is something along those same lines so that students can transfer what they've learned and show you what they know. So one easy example is if you are learning about like matter and energy and ecosystems, you've been studying desert ecosystems. Okay, now we're going to take a look at like this video from the savannah, and they can watch these lions working together to hunt down some zebras, and they can talk about how, well, the zebras were eating the grass, they are herbivores, and the grass are getting their energy from the sun, and so the energy is moving from the sun through the grass to the zebras, and then they're moving into the lions, and then the lions are working together, and that's like, I don't know if it's technically mutualism, but whatever, they're working together because they're in the same species, so there's not competition there, but they're competing with the hyenas and the cheetahs that are over in the background. I don't know, whatever it is. They can everything they learned while studying desert ecosystems, they can now apply to that new situation, that new like savanna ecosystem. So you want something similar but different, and that's what you want to look for with that third type of phenomena that's all about, or that third type of, the third way of using phenomena that's all about kind of that practice and the assessment. So it can be a formal assessment for sure, your three-dimensional assessments, but it also is a really good way to just simply practice in the classroom formative assessment, get a feel for what students know and what they don't know. And it's way better, honestly, than like having them match vocabulary terms, because it's easy to match a vocabulary term, but sometimes they don't understand those concepts that are behind that vocabulary. Anyway, I told you I would keep this quick, and that's all I have for you. If you are just getting started with the NGSS, I highly recommend our Intro to the NGSS mini course. It's going to break down like what all of this lofty rhetoric of NGSS and 3D instruction and student ownership and storylines, what it actually looks like in the classroom. You are always invited to join us at iExplore Academy, which is your step-by-step guide to basically your recipe to just building your NGSS curriculum and putting it to work. So developing your storylines, developing your lessons. And it's not just like this big mapping of your curriculum, but like day to day, what am I teaching? How am I teaching it? How am I doing this in a 3D way? And can I just get support for it? Like a real human, can you walk me through it? That's what iExplore Academy is all about. I'm all about the real human stuff. And then I would love to work with your school or district. So definitely reach out if I can do that. And I promise I won't come in a tank top. I hope you have a wonderful, what day is it? Monday. And I hope you will join us for NGSS Storylines Bootcamp that is happening now. If you have any questions about any of these things, just reach out and I will be in the chat so that you don't have to listen to my screaming 3 children when they wake up from their naps. Have a good one, guys.